and today's frame is Hildryn. Honestly, it feels weird to be at this point, because, wow, it feels like it wasn't all that long ago that she was announced. I felt this way back when the Prime got released too, so, anyways, here we go. Base stats on a level 30 Hildryn Prime are 370 health, 1,880 shields, 315 armor, 0 energy, and 1.05 sprint speed. Hildryn's passive is, after her shields are depleted, she is invulnerable to damage for up to 3.5 seconds. Hildryn's first ability is actually an exalted weapon, that being Balefire Charger. And it's a secondary gun that you can charge up to launch bolts of energy. Instead of using energy as the currency for her abilities, which should have been included in her passive but wasn't, she actually uses her shields. Her Balefire Charger does a decent amount of damage too. Her first ability does have an augment, that being Balefire Surge, and that is fully charged direct hits restore 250 shields to Hildryn. Impacts with nullifier shields will destroy them and restore 750 shields. The shield regen is affected by ability strength in particular. Hildryn's second ability is Pillage. Hey, I've seen that one before. Jokes aside, it's one I use on a lot of my frames because it's particularly useful because of what it does. As for what it does, it pillages a percentage of shields and armor from nearby enemies to replenish Hildryn's own shields and overshields. It also removes status effects from Hildryn and her allies. It also does strip enemy armor, which in the description kind of obvious, but not necessarily. Theoretically, you could get it to 100% strip, but I'm not sure exactly how much it takes, but it does take more than 352% ability strength. I tried to figure out how much it was so that way I could include that here, but yeah, no. Either way, yeah, it is a good ability, but if you want to strip armor with it, you do have to cast it twice. Hildryn's second ability does have an augment, that being Blazing Pillage, and that is, enemies affected by Haven will be set ablaze for 200 heat damage and restore 50 additional shields to Hildryn. Both of those are affected by ability strength. It's also pretty good. Speaking of Haven, that is her third ability. And what that is you create a shield aura around allies. Enemies that approach Hildryn will take radiation damage. And last but not least, her fourth ability is Aegis Storm. And that is, she does her best helicopter impression and levitates. And you can only use your Balefire Charger while you're in it. But still, as we already established, that one actually is pretty good. As well as any enemy that gets near Hildryn also gets, lifted off the ground. So it's also a really good CC. And her fourth ability does have an augment, that being Aegis Gale. And that is, Balefire has an alternate fire during Aegis Storm. The blast deals 15% of Hildryn's max shield as additional damage. It is quite good, and that is affected by ability strength as well. As for my build, well, I went with Aerodynamic for the aura because of the fact that it does reduce the damage you take while you're in the air, and you spend a lot of time in helicopter mode, so good to have. I have Agility Drift, which also reduces the amount of damage while you're airborne. And for Arcanes, I actually went with Arcane Barrier and Arcane Aegis, though I may swap out Barrier at some point, as helpful as it is for Hildryn specifically. But either way, Barrier has the chance to instantly restore all shields with a 6-second cooldown, so that's pretty damn good. And then Arcane Aegis, 3% chance for 30% shield recharge for 12 seconds, which is also really freaking good for Hildryn. Of course, I have Prime Redirection for extra shields. I went with Aegis Gale and Balefire Charge for the augments. I don't have any helmets on this one. Honestly, I'm not sure what I would put on her as far as that goes. More accurately, I'm not sure what I would remove. That's the big killer there. For Archon Shards, I do have 3 of the orange ones for 10% ability damage on enemies affected by radiation status, because that works really nicely in tandem with their Haven. I do have 1 red one for ability strength. Also, while I'm thinking about it, you may have noticed the Emerald Intensify. I did squeeze that on there for the just little bit more ability strength you get from it, even without the rest of the set. So, there is that. As for my Balefire Charger build, well, it's nothing special, but it does pretty good. I have Prime Fulmination on there for the improved blast radius, which is very helpful with it. I went with Secondary Enervate for the Arcane because it's surprisingly effective for it. I also looked at it and saw that, you know, she has basically no crit chance or status chance, so I said, screw it, I'm going to build around Enervate so I can hopefully get, you know, increased damage on occasion, and it does well enough. Even without having the crit chance and status chance, she's already doing 48,000 damage total, so it's not a horrible thing, really. I also built for fire rates and, of course, multi-shot, as you can see. Which, nothing that you would be surprised by, really. So how does she perform for Deviri? Well, as I mentioned in the Umber video, I'm at the point where I'd say most frames are acceptable, but I also will say she's pretty good for it, specifically. A similar thing with the whole Umber thing, where she has weapons that I can just keep using, though I will say the downside to hers is the fact that you do lose her shields every time you shoot it, but with that augment, it does help quite a lot as far as mitigating that. She is quite nice. I'm able to usually get pretty far in the Steel Path circuit with her, so I would say, yeah, she's a pretty good pick. So how about Archimedia? Well, I would say Hildryn is actually quite a good pick. She's surprisingly tanky, mainly because of how many shields she has, as well as the shield gating, as well as Pillage being fantastic in a pinch, and of course Arcane Barrier, if you have it on her, can help be another Pillage, if you will. She's not one I typically grab, but mainly that's just because I'm not huge on her gimmicks and whatnot. I will say she is a good frame, and when I do play her, I usually enjoy it, but she's not my first pick usually. So closing thoughts on Hildryn. Well, I would say she is a fantastic frame. She has aged pretty well, and thanks to the different, like, for example, allowing arcanes on the Exalted weapons there has been very helpful, and her augments have been kind of interesting. I will say I do find it funny that 2 of her augments don't affect the ability that, you know, they were meant for. At least not directly, which is a little funny. But either way, yeah, no, she's not bad. She's not the type of frame I play very often. But either way, like, she's not bad, and she's not a bad pick if you like tank frames, especially, you know, the idea of just having a helicopter as a frame, because that is pretty much what she's good for. But either way, yeah, no. The fact that her helmet ability is the one that I use the most, far and away, is very telling of how good of a frame she is, in all honesty. But anyways, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you all for watching. Get plenty of water, and have a good one.